Hello and welcome to the Elbows Down MotoGP podcast. My name is Alex Higgins.
And I'm Jimmy Harrison.
And this week we're doing our season review for 2024 season in MotoGP and Moto2 and Moto3 as well. So not only are we going to be talking about some statistics this week, we're also going to be talking about our personal thoughts of who we thought shone, who we thought disappointed us, and who actually gave us a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, we're not going to sit here and talk stats. That's boring. That's not what we do. I think talking about who popped out as a surprise, I think is an important one. Equally important is who didn't really perform. And we're going to go through MotoGP, Moto2, and Moto3 for that as well. So let's just dive straight in there, really. Alex.
Yeah, MotoGP. I mean, it's the second season in a row where we've only had one rookie, so we can't really talk about rookies because obviously Augusto Fernandez last year and Pedro Acosta this year. We are going to talk about Pedro Acosta in his rookie season because we've got a bit more to talk about this year about Pedro Acosta than we did last year about Augusto Fernandez.
Quite a lot more, yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, it's so what we're going to do is for each class, we're going to briefly highlight who each of us, because we both went away and did a few notes separately, who we thought impressed us the most and who disappointed us and who surprised us. So for me, the most impressive, it was a bit of a toss-up really in MotoGP. I was impressed the most by two riders who rode for Japanese manufacturers. One of them was Johan Zarco, who towards the end of the year posted some pretty amazing results in not necessarily in races and qualifying, but in practice sessions. But obviously getting himself in the top 10 he got himself a
considering
P8,
the bike he's on.
Getting himself a P8 in considering the bike that he's on. We know that Zarco is incredibly well experienced and all that. But to be honest, he wasn't the rider that impressed me the most this year. That rider was the 2021 world champion Fabio Quartararo. Massively impressed by Quartararo this year. You were as well, I know.
Yeah, it's hard not to be, really. Yamaha are probably in a better place than Honda. A lot of that is to do with the fact that they have Fabio Quartararo. Alex Rins is a brilliant rider, and he's done some things that have shone quite well this year, but 9 times out of 10, he does get beaten by Fabio fair and square. I know Rins has got an injury that he'll forever probably nurse, let's be honest here, but Fabio outrides that M1, and he is able to beat Ducatis, even though, yes, they're a year old, but they are far superior bikes, as we know. He's able to beat Bez now and again, Digi now and again, Alex Marquez now and again, maybe not as much, but factory KTMs, he has beaten them occasionally. Aprilia, Fabio's beaten the Aprilias occasionally. Factory Aprilias at that.
A fun fact, actually, about Fabio. So I've got a few reasons why Fabio impressed me so much. First and foremost is that he was the only rider on Japanese machinery to score more than 100 World Championship points. Everybody else was below 100. Another big reason is that he essentially was the reason why factory Yamaha was the only team, the Monster Energy Yamaha was the only team to not get beaten by all of the European manufacturers' teams.
Yeah.
The one team that Monster Energy Yamaha beat was Trackhouse Aprilia. In the team standings for the end of the year. So Quartararo not only did that, but he also finished top 10 in 7 Grand Prix and in 7 sprint races.
Yeah.
So on a Yamaha, which everyone knows, has been struggling to keep up with the Ducatis and also the other European manufacturers as well. Really, really struggled with development. So I think that's really, really important for me. I think that Fabio Quartararo has done an incredible job, and once again, he is proving to the world that he is one of the best riders. He absolutely 100% one of the best riders.
He is. I mean, I wouldn't put him in my... If we were doing top 10s, and we're not because it's too predictable for any podcast to do their top 10 riders, we'd like to be a bit different.
I would 100% put him on my top 10
Sorry,
riders.
top 5, beg your pardon.
Yeah.
I mean, some people would say, I've seen some people on social saying, I'm putting the number second. No, come on. You can't be realistic. It's almost like you're punishing people for being on good bikes here. It's not their problem. But yeah, Fabio, he's still one of the best in the world, and he will win more races again. Just a matter of time. And I mean, they have concessions now, so you could argue it is easier for him to finish well compared to, and he's in a factory team. So yeah, but he's got the best engineers and people, but he's still got to ride the bike. So no, good choice there. With how impressive he's been and who he's able to beat. Sometimes quite regularly.
Speaking of concessions, do you know that obviously there are the 4 categories for concessions, from A to D, and we'll go on to the other non Ducati do wells of 2024. But weirdly enough, Aprilia very, very nearly qualified for the lowest category for concessions in MotoGP last year. How mental is that? When you consider the fact that they were the only factory to basically break up the Ducatis.
Yeah, and they won every single race. Every single Grand Prix race of the year. If it wasn't for Maverick,
they had 3 sprint wins. Did Aprilia, and they had the 1 Grand Prix win as well. So the one of the sprints and the Grand Prix were at Cota, and Portimao and Catalunya. We saw Aleix Spargo on the podium as well. So, I mean, that's that. This is sprint wins.
Yeah.
So they're the only manufacturer to have broken up Ducati's win record. If they hadn't have got those 4, so the 1 Grand Prix and the 3 sprint wins, then we would have 100% seen dominance from Ducati. But we didn't get full Ducati dominance because of Aprilia.
Yeah.
And KTM didn't get close to that. And well, I mean, they did get close to it on a couple of occasions with Pedro Acosta, very nearly winning races.
I still feel like that's the second best bike in a way. We'll see next year.
It brings us on to your hero of the year.
Yeah, well, impressive. You know, people might be thinking, why have we not picked Pecco or Jorge Martin for most impressive? Well, I picked Pedro Acosta. Now, the reason for that is that we forget that we are currently witnessing a ferociously competitive era in MotoGP when you've got most of the field can finish within 30 seconds. It's that competitive, whereas 15, 20 years ago, it was double that, maybe more.
Even podiums were 45 seconds apart.
Well, this is the thing, and the KTM cannot use the current tyres as well as the Ducati, not even as well as the Aprilia. And Pedro was able to ride around these issues very easily, and most of the time he could beat his teammate Brad Binder. He could easily beat his teammate Augusto Fernandez, but he was able to beat the factory boys, even though Pedro was right. He was at the factory team with the factory engineers of their riders, Brad and Jack, and he was able to beat them on a regular basis. The only reason he didn't was because he made normal rookie mistakes. That's what rookies do.
Yeah.
Yes, he probably should have. Well, he should have won a small handful of races this year, but those rookie mistakes were why he didn't. Motegi is the one that's is in my mind a lot. But when you look at that first race in Qatar, the way he was passing people like Mark, just not caring, going for any move and making it stick, got up to the top 5. It was just insane. From the bikes he's beating, the names he's beating, these Ducatis. Round 1 Qatar, and he was just. I was gobsmacked actually. I knew I expected top 5s towards the end of the year, podiums of course, but to be that fast that early on, and then obviously a few rounds later in Cota, when we had that insane battle at the start of the race, some of you might remember when Martin, Pecco, Marquez, and Acosta were fighting for the lead, and Acosta nearly took out Martin, or vice versa, and then obviously Maverick caught them all and beat them all. But an incredible season, I thought, to be that good that early on in this current era of MotoGP, when he is on a great bike, but we talk about generational talents, Al. You had Valentino Rossi was on a full factory NSR 500.
Yep.
Just without, with Nastro Azzurro colours. He had the best bike and a great competition, but you could argue now it's better. Marquez had great competition, potentially better than Valentino. It's harder, but he had easily the best bike. And the only thing that could beat the Honda in 2013 was the Yamaha. Whereas now Pedro Costa has technically a factory KTM in gas colours it was. But the competition he has now is ridiculous. The bikes he's up against are ridiculous. So what to achieve podiums, sprint podiums, pole positions. I bet he was my most impressive. But yeah, I mean, some more obvious names will come to fruition in a minute. But yeah, that was my most impressive rider.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with you. But obviously, Quattararo for me
Yes,
just
no, I get that.
really did the unexpected. Well, not the unexpected for Quattararo, to be honest, because Quattararo is just an absolutely class rider, and I'm really looking forward. I really hope he gets a podium next year. I really hope he gets a win next year. Hopefully, the Yamaha moves towards that sort of. Quattararo himself has said that they're edging closer and closer. So
yeah.
I'm really hoping, because the thing is, Fabio Quattararo will never lie. Let's face it, because the amount of times that we've heard Quattararo say we're nowhere near.
He
This
doesn't.
bike's a
He
heap of
doesn't.
shit. It's not.
What's the point?
He definitely doesn't.
Mince his
Yeah,
words. No,
he doesn't mince his words at all about the Yamaha. And let's face it, when you're on 12 million quid a year, you know.
Well, hats off to both of those two next year, Acosta and Quattararo, because quite honestly, you could say you could have a good argument against someone that those two potentially have more natural talent than Pecco and Martin. Maybe, potentially.
I'd say so with Fabio, definitely. We get to see with Acosta.
Yeah.
But Fabio, I've always rated Fabio higher than Pecco.
Then Pecco, yeah. I mean, with Acosta, though, I mean, I think, I was surprised just then that you were hesitant. I mean, sometimes people can be better in junior categories, but I mean, I do believe
So
that
we're not seeing enough from Acosta yet.
not
to
yet,
be honest.
not yet. And some riders make a killing in their first year, but it doesn't work like that with everyone, does it? Like not everyone could be like Valentino, Fabio in 2019. But yeah, it's also hard when the bike's that far off. But we'll have to see.
Disappointment of the year. Disappointment was the rider that we saw last year that looked like they were going to do really well. We had high hopes for.
Yeah.
Maybe they've moved manufacturer, maybe they've moved team. But in my case, it is, it's the same team, same manufacturer. It's Marco Bezzecchi for me. He really struggled with the GP23. I was really hoping. It's a bit like a few years ago when Enea Bastianini was winning races against Pecco, against Fabio, and I thought, oh my god, when Enea goes to a factory bike, he's going to dominate. Yeah. So for me, last year, I mean, obviously he was riddled with the issue of injury last year. Was Enea Bastianini with his literally the first round at Portimao getting taken out of the sprint by Marini and being injured for so long, but Bezzecchi hasn't had that issue this year. And for me, he was the Enea Bastianini of this year. I really thought that we will see Bezzecchi on the GP23. Obviously not the factory bike, but we will see Bezzecchi really coming into his own. He's been, his rookie season was 2021.
Yeah.
And
22.
22? Was it 22?
Yeah, 22. I'm pretty sure we were there at Magello.
God bloody hell, we were as well, weren't we? God, yeah.
Yeah. But no, Bez, the thing is, I think that's the worst decision he ever made. Was because he was happy at VR46. He said, no, I'll stay here and accept a year-old bike.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever, to my knowledge, remember someone doing that in history. I'll accept a year older bike because I know the team more. The Ducati is so good. I mean, that's the excuse. Anyway, how good, much better could it be? And no one knew the GP24 was going to be that much better. But still, I mean, a bit of regret must have come into his mind because he'd have easily beaten Morbidelli this year, if you ask me. Easily. 100%. But now it doesn't matter now anyway. It's going to Aprilia. But yeah, I see your point. I mean, Bez was a championship contender last year.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Marco Bezzecchi last year was P1 in the standings early on in the year.
Yeah.
Then he went down to P2, P3, and he was still in the championship standings all the way till right at the end. I mean,
the championship hunt,
the championship hunt, yeah.
I mean, I think
honestly, he's an amazing rider, and he just really struggled this year, and that's why he's so disappointing for me because I was really looking forward to seeing him this year do well, and then he just didn't. Nothing translated into from what he was doing to what he did this year.
No. But yeah, I agreed. I think next year will be interesting to see him and Martin, but we'll soon see. Well, if we learn anything more into Pang in a few months' time testing. But my biggest disappointment of the year was Brad Binder, and the reason for that
That's a good one.
was it sort of bounces off my first point really. A few years ago, Mark Marquez himself said that Brad Binder is one of the best riders in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, last year we saw some amazing performances. Especially that one sticks out when they had the ding dong battle between him and Martin and Pekka.
So the what battle?
Ding dong battle.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
It's a new one.
In Thailand, and that was an amazing race. And this KTM in the middle of these two full factory Ducatis.
Yeah.
And Brad managed to get on loads of podiums last year. Sprint wins, never won a race, but it was an amazing year, and they were able to use the tyre then. Thing is, this year the KTM wasn't able to use the tyres properly, but one person, yes, okay, he beat Pedro Costa by 2 points, but so he bloody should, But 9 times out of 10, Pedro walked all over him, was able to breeze past him.
Yeah, I mean, next year, do you reckon it'll be? What do you reckon next year? Do you reckon?
I think I'd be
extremely impressed. 2 points in next year.
Extremely impressed with Brad Binder if he can beat Pedro Costa in the standings next year. But yeah, I was disappointed with his performance. He crashed too many times again. That sort of habit started late last year, and it's kept happening. It's never used to be Brad. Brad was known for not crashing often.
After if I remember correctly, after Brad's initial podium in the first sprint of the year, he didn't score any points for the next 5 rounds in the sprint race.
Yeah. It's not good enough, really, from Brad. Bearing
in mind that he dominated in the sprints. He didn't dominate in the sprints last year, but as far as non-Ducatis go, he was the dominant. He was the best of the rest last year.
He was,
in the sprints.
It's not.
And then
good
this
enough.
year, it's just shabby. And I do genuinely think it's something to do with the rear tire shredder that the KTM is. Because the thing is with the sprint is that there's a completely different mentality to the main race when it comes to tire degradation. I mean, it's basically non-existent. You don't have to really think about it. You've got a full Grand Prix worth of tire to race half the distance.
Yeah, but it's still.
So, I mean, it's what we saw last year. Is why we had a spike last year in an average amount of crash rates.
The best result Brad Binder had all year was a Qatar in the first race.
Yeah. That's mental. And then we thought, oh, here we go, it's Brad's year.
Yeah. I mean, it would have crept into the mind to a degree, wouldn't
it? Brad is good. The thing is, this is why, at the beginning of the year, the amount of times that we see someone do so well, and we think, oh my God, it's their year. This is great. This is somebody else that's doing really well. But look at Moto2. Garcia, Roberts. Where were they at the end of the year?
Yeah.
And P6 for Roberts or something stupid like that. And then Garcia was nowhere as well. I mean, it just goes to show that you can get excited about people at the beginning of the year.
Yes, and then it can die off.
But then it's just literally going to go nowhere. But we will talk about Moto2 in a bit. But
yeah,
Brad Binder, when I saw him on the podium at Qatar in the sprint race, I thought, yes, here we go. This is Brad's year. Yes, please, let's go. Let's do it. And then it just...
I think I
came to fruition.
The main reason I did it was because he's better than that. He is actually better than that. And yes, obviously he outperformed Jack Miller, and Jack could equally have likely been in that list. But to be honest, the biggest disappointment. This biggest disappointment, and to be honest, Jack's lucky he's got a ride next year at Pramac Yamaha. But I'm damn glad he is because he's a nice rider. But then again, we're not in this for nice guys, to be fair, or girls.
Tell you who is unlucky that Jack Miller's got a ride next year. Sergio Garcia.
Yes, well, there's a list of riders that missed on that ride, but yes, Garcia especially. But so it could have been either of it. Could have been Miller as well. Alex, who surprised you the most?
Surprised me the most? Nobody surprised me the most. Something surprised me the most. So, looking at the champion, if you look at, you can see it on the MotoGP app or whatever. The standings for the teams at the end of the year, right? every single time, out of all 5 manufacturers, 4 manufacturers, the factory team beat the satellite team. I mean, obviously Yamaha don't have a satellite team, but Honda, the biggest surprise of the year, Honda, they finished higher. LCR Honda finished higher in the standings than the factory Repsol team. Factory Repsol Honda team.
Yeah, it's nuts.
How mental is that? I mean, that was my surprise of the year, is that for the first time in a bloody long time, we have a satellite team beating the factory team.
Well, it doesn't really count with Martin before anyone starts thinking that, because Martin's got a full.
But they didn't. Well, it's
independent team technically.
Yeah,
and Zarco's in a factory bike, but you could argue the reason for that, and this isn't me making excuses. Well, it is a bit, but Repsol Honda riders are testing a lot of new parts all the time. Here you go, try that. Here you go, try that. Whereas Johan does do that as well, but because he's in the independent team, he can get on with his race weekend a little more, which comes into play a lot, because that's why when some riders can be like Air was able to win 4 races in 2022 for Gresini Ducati. As soon as he went to the Works team, yes, he had a bit of an injured year, but I think he was able to relax a lot more. And some riders just want to get on a race without testing top 15 engineers at once.
But also think about it this way, mate, is not only did John Zarco finish higher than the Repsol Honda riders in size, his teammate Takaki Nakagami also finished higher than the Repsol Honda riders. I'm not just talking about the team itself having more points than the other team, because of course, Zarco could have 50 points and Nakagami have 10, and then the other 2 Repsol guys in the middle, and that would obviously bump LCR up, but both LCR Honda riders scored more points in the Riders' Championship than Marini and Mir, and thus the team itself scored higher than
it's really
the
puzzling.
factory team,
it really
which is mental. You could absolutely mental.
You could almost expect it a little bit more from Nakagami, because he's so experienced on the Honda. But then again, the Honda is changing quite a lot these days, so it doesn't stack up. It's strange, very strange.
So that was my surprise of the year.
I think that's a good point. My surprise of the year, and just so you know, some people would probably thought, why is Martin most impressive? Martin was my biggest surprise, and the reason for that was how consistent he's been compared to last year, and how much he's matured as a man. Because out of the 40, we looked at this up earlier on, Alex did, because he's the stat guy here. Out of the 40 sprints and races combined this year, 31 times Jorge Martin stepped on the podium, which is something that Pecco did not do or get close to doing, because Pecco, won 11 Grand Prix to the 3 of Jorge Martin, which is absurd, really. Not winning the championship.
Mental.
I just don't. But yeah, that's the consistency and maturity that Jorge Martin now has. Now, yes, the way he handled the media, how he sort of spat his dummy out a bit last year for not getting an Air's seat for this year again. That sort of was put to bed, and it's almost like, okay, I'll show you. I'll show you. But he did it in a really, really mature way, and he's still got that very sure about yourself, borderline arrogance about him. But I don't mind that in a racer.
No.
And I was surprised it wasn't him falling to it at the end of the year. It was Pecco. That surprised me.
That's a really good surprise, to be fair.
Pecco used to do this in the past, but we're talking the year, like a bit of 23 and 2020 definitely. But 22 and 21. That's why I expect it's come back a bit for Pecco, but I thought that was long gone. And the fact that Martin has done this on a satellite team, he's obviously Ducati haven't. People said, they'll start, not tempering with his bike, just like
it was
giving all his bits to Marquez and stuff like this. I'm glad it turned out to be bollocks. Ducati's winning a championship. Is the Ducati winning a championship? That's obviously the way Gigi Dall'Igna looked at it, and why not? But yeah, I honestly massively deserved it. Some people say No, it should have been Pecco winning that one race. Look, guys, they all sign up for the same championship, and the sprints aren't just a bonus that you get. 12 points for winning the sprint.
It's funny, isn't it? All the stuff that Pecco's been saying about point system after his failure to win the world championship, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everything that Pecco's been saying about how sprints should be separate to Grand Prix points.
Yeah.
I think it's a really weird thing to say shortly after you've lost to someone. But the thing is that you look at the stats.
Yeah.
Martin and Pecco had exactly the same amount of sprint wins, 7.
Yeah,
they both won 7 sprints.
Yeah. But then how many times did Martin get a second or third in a sprint, and when Pecco didn't bring it home at all?
This is what I wanted to talk about. So, it's amazing, really, when you read how the 2024 season went.
Yeah.
For Pecco and Martin, you look at it and you go, how the fuck did Martin win that? And here's why. Right, so what amazes me is that Pecco, right?
Sorry about that.
The fuck is that?
It'll be quiet in a second.
Shut up.
It's a dishwasher.
As a dishwasher?
Yeah.
There is a dishwasher. Only 2 of you live in this house. Why do you have a dishwasher?
Because it's tidy and it's there. It's fine.
Just wash plates. It takes 2 minutes.
I'm so sorry, darling.
Oh, for God's sake, honestly. Ridiculous. This here is the man who's contributing to global warming the most. So, anyway.
What's the point, Al?
The point... Shut up. Let's try to pass the buck. Anyway, so Bagnaia did the triple, right? The triple, which is pole position, P1 in the main race, and P1 in the main in the
Grand Prix.
Sorry, in the Grand Prix. So P1 in the sprint, P1 in the Grand Prix, and pole position. So Bagnaia did that twice at Assen and the Solidarity Grand Prix, right? And Martin only did it once at Le Mans.
Yeah.
Anyway, gets more mental than that. Bagnaia did the double, which is P1 in both races, not without pole position. This is P1 in both races. He did it 5 times.
Yeah.
Martin only did it once.
Yeah. Again, another weird stat to prove why on earth didn't you win the championship.
Weird stat. At this point, everyone's thinking, how did Martin win the championship? Anyway, let's add to that question. The only other 2 riders to do the triple were Marc Marquez at Aragon and Vinales at Cota. Right? So, so you got Martin, you got Vinales, and you got Marquez.
Yeah.
They've all done the triple. Bagnaia's done it twice.
Yeah.
Right? Then we look at the quadruple. This was pole position, P1 in the sprint, P1 in the main race, and fastest lap, right? So Bagnaia did this at Assen.
Yeah.
Marc Marquez did it at Aragon, and Maverick Vinales did it at Cota.
Yeah.
Martin didn't do it at all.
No.
Bagnaia and Martin both won 7 sprints, which I mentioned earlier on. Bagnaia won 11 Grand Prix to Martin's 3. So at this point, you're thinking, how on earth did Martin win the championship? Of course, we're just looking at wins here. Now, when you look at podiums of the 40 races that we had this year, we had 20 rounds, sprint, Grand Prix. We have 40 races overall, right? So that's 40 races. Martin finished on the podium in 15 sprints, including his wins, this is, by the way, and in 16 Grand Prix. So out of 40 races, Martin finished on the podium 31 times.
Yep.
That's where the coin flips. That is where you go, hang on a minute, Bagnaia can't He surely can't win. He can't win this
No.
world champion. If you're literally just listening to me telling you
Well,
these
Martin can't.
stats,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
think, bloody
yeah.
hell, how on earth could Bagnaia? How on earth could Bagnaia win at this point? Martin's biggest blunder, obviously, was his San Marino
Yeah.
flag to flag blunder, which was just a pure. I don't know what on earth went through his mind, but thought I'm on slicks. Oh no, I need to be on wet. No, I did that wrong. I need to go back on
But
slicks.
it turned out. I thought that was it. I thought that will be the moment for him.
Yeah.
It turned out it was. It didn't matter because of Pecco's blunder in Sepang in the sprint, and that was that.
He handed the championship to Pecco. He handed championship hope to Pecco at that point. And Pecco,
At San Marino.
At San Marino.
Yeah.
And Pecco just went, whatever, I'll just crash somewhere else. And exactly what happened. So, yeah, I mean, that was, he finished P15 in the main race in Martin. So it was so neck and neck. And what I loved about this season was how neck and neck the championship was from pretty much day dot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
it was constant.
A lot of it was points. And
Martin dominated for the vast majority. If you look at Martin, Martin where he was in the championship standings for the vast majority of the season, he was winning. And there were only a couple of times, shortly after the summer break, where Pecco actually regained the lead.
Yeah.
And then Martin immediately took it back. It wasn't that Martin wiped the floor with Pecco.
No, it didn't at all.
No.
That's not the name of the game anymore. I mean, yes, consistency's always been the name of the game. But you could. Then there was a time when you could just win 10, 11 races and have a couple of, more DNFs than way more DNFs than the person in second and still win the championship because there was no such thing as sprints. But that's the championship now.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do we want to do next? We want to talk about
Moto2. Yeah. I'll start.
Cool.
Most impressive with me, sounds like a boring thing to say, but it was Ayagura. Proving just how good that he actually can be when he's got the right equipment. Because obviously you go to 2023, there's only two riders on the Bosescuras, and Aldeguer and Alonso Lopez were good, very good, very, very good for Aldeguer. But then as soon as we started seeing Bosescura riders, another two of them, it just showed you the quality of Ayagura. I mean, how much better he can be, especially than his teammate Garcia, who should have been world champion in my eyes, but just sort of lost his head. So that's why, I mean, he's not going to be most impressive anyway, because he just sort of went off the boil. Well, we realised he wasn't going to get the Pramac Yamaha ride. That
was mental. I mean, it really, really was a huge drop off for Sergio Garcia. I think
it was, and that's why. Yeah. That's why. I thought he was going to win the championship. I thought we got to Barcelona, and that's when he was leading the race, and then Ayagura caught him, and passed him at home. Which probably was a bit of a bullet to the heart. Yeah. But it's one of the hardest lineups. This is another reason why I picked Ayagura. It's one of the hardest lineups in Moto2 in recent years. A lot of rookies from last year are really fast now. And there's a lot of Calix riders out there who've started to find pace again after they sorted out the suspension, the WP suspension. It didn't matter. Ayagura impressed me. Massively, and
he impressed me massively as well. It was.
I think it sounds like a state the obvious, but it was an obvious pick for me because that's the end of it really. And he deserves his ride in MotoGP. No matter what we've been saying, so other people said in previous months, he does deserve that ride in MotoGP. Definitely, he's the world champion.
100%.
What about you?
For me, it was Diogo Moreira.
Yeah.
He impressed me the most from. Especially because of how he outshone his teammate who had been there for an extra year, Dennis Foggia. Diogo Moreira, in his rookie season, was just absolutely fantastic, especially towards the end of the season. Diogo Moreira was just not dominating. I mean, he
never dominated anything, but it was there. It was there or thereabouts, and he
raced and acted, like a rookie towards the beginning. But I mean, the P4 in Sachsenring, where did that come from? I mean, he was so nearly on the podium as well, And then towards the end of the year, apart from a couple of blunders here and there,
Yeah.
I mean, from Emilia Romagna, San Marino Grand Prix,
Yeah.
he consistently finished in the top 10.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable. I mean, this is Moto2, and we always bang on about this. Moto2 has got to be the most competitive class because obviously you're all on the same, all with the same engines.
Yeah.
And we saw the dominance of Boscoscuro this year compared to Calex. You know, this is the first time this year is the first time that we have seen a manufacturer's chassis lock out a podium that has a Calex on it.
Yeah.
We've not seen this is the first time we've not seen a Calex chassis on the podium since 2013.
Yeah.
With
Suitors,
and it's mental to me that someone who is on a Calex has done so well in their rookie year. I mean, Dorga Moreira, don't get me wrong, he impressed a few times in Moto3, but moving up to Moto2, holy shit!
It takes a lot of riders to adapt to Moto2. Some of the really, some riders did it immediately. Like Raul Fernandez was fast straight away. Pedro Costa was fast straight away.
Yeah,
both Lao boys for Calex, but it just doesn't work out for a lot of people.
Right. Well, you look at last year's Moto3 world champion Jaume Masia. You look at Yumi Sasaki, the runner-up. I mean, they were nowhere this year.
Yeah.
You look at.
You could argue, is it the team around them sometimes, like the personnel, the engineers, and that maybe? But
well, I mean, other than the fact that Jaume Masia has got the worst livery on the entire grid.
Yes.
That
team isn't exactly known to be producing race winners, is it? Or
bit of news about Precanos actually. I don't think we'll be seeing the same livery next year because they're going to be called something different.
Yes, you were saying
they're going to be called Gas Up or Gas Out or something like that.
Right.
So hopefully their horrendous livery will be different. I don't know what the team will be like, but it won't like vomit anymore. So,
but yeah, I mean, the MSI boys, the Boscoscuros didn't impress massively. But it's a bit boring this because my surprise for Moto2 was Diogo Moreira, who impressed you most. And I mean, all I can add to what Alex has already bloody said, but that he could have had a season like Dennis Foggia or Izan Guevara, but he didn't. Arguably his Moto3 career was less impressive than theirs.
Than his debut Moto2 career.
Exactly. So 100%. This just shows you how Moto2 can kill careers.
Make them.
Not saying that it's, we've seen the end of Guevara, probably haven't, because he was actually getting better at the second half of the year, actually. And he occasionally could beat Jake. I mean, I say occasionally, like twice. But yeah.
So the dog's just woken up.
There's a lovely dog in the corner. We'd rotate the camera, but we'll never get it bloody where we want to.
He's just woken up and he's like, what on earth is going on?
That's maybe what some of the heavy breathing you heard earlier on as well. But
yeah, there was a bit of snoring going on.
What's your surprise?
My surprise was Jorge Navarro at Sepang. When he got pole position at Sepang, I was like, "What's going on? What the fuck? Where's Cadet? Where are the
really
usual?"
Weird for Moto2 that weekend.
That was so weird,
so strange.
Navarro. We've also seen that he's now moving up to Moto2 next year
permanently.
He's basically cancelled his World Supersport 600 ride, his contract for next year, 2025.
Yeah,
and he'll be replacing Xavier Artigas at
forward
Clint.
Yeah,
next year. Artigas will be, for those of you wondering where Artigas is going, he is moving next year to European Moto2, and he'll be riding for the hideously ugly Precanos team alongside Harrison Voigt. So European Moto2 for Xavier Artigas next year, and get replaced by Jorge Navarro, who I would genuinely say that I'd rather have Jorge Navarro, who is definitely more naturally talented than
He
Moto2.
is, yeah.
He's also a lot more experienced in Moto2 as well, isn't he?
It's
Than
weird.
Giovinazzi Gasly.
It's weird having him do that though, because it's like, well, you're never going to get to MotoGP, so what's the point? But then again, you'd be like, well, I'd rather be in Grand Prix Moto2 winning the odd race and making a living there than do it
dominating in Sim Spot 600
yeah.
and just winning every single race.
Well, I mean, he's good enough to do that. This is the thing. But as a rider, you want to be, in Grand Prix, don't you? I mean, Sam Lowe's could have probably gone to World Supersport a hell of a lot earlier than he went to that paddock. In World Superbikes, but you want to be, you want to be able to say you've won a Grand Prix championship, don't you? Even though they're regarded as stepping stones now, there's still a Grand Prix category. So yeah, fair play to Jorge Navarro. Good choice as well, because that's something that will get forgotten probably.
And we can definitely look at Jorge Navarro for a winning potential next season, because obviously he's got a pole position and a podium from one of the 3 races that he took part in this year.
Yeah, which is that's a good little ratio going on there. Do you know what? It's really good for young rookies to race against riders this experienced and hard to beat.
Yeah,
because it really squeezes the best out of these young rookies coming up. So yeah, another reason to hats off for that one off great result for him.
Disappointments.
Philip Salach for me.
Yeah,
and that was because obviously in 2023 Grassini. I believe it was Grassini was with. Yeah, I really thought that this guy's got that sort of attacking swagger about him. The way he went about his racing, he does some good results. And really, I thought, is it Mark VDS? Great team, great personnel, well run, very professionally run team, world champions. A couple of times over.
WP suspension though, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean they struggled as well, a bit like Aspar did with their boys, the CF Motor boys. But even so, he was. I mean, there was some races where he was just as good as his teammate in Arbolino, but I was disappointed. I expected a lot more from Fritz.
But remember how much Arbolino
he has managed to keep his ride.
Remember how much Arbolino struggled at the beginning of the year, though. He really, really, really struggled.
He did, but I think Salach was maybe just as bad. Actually, no. To begin with, for the Pirellis, Arbolino was worse. He was really bad. But Salach, I expected more for him. I did. But then he's kept his ride. So, and they're Bottascuras next year, and Jacob is Dixon rides as Salach's teammate in VDS next year. That'll be interesting. But yeah,
100%. I mean, I'm really looking forward to my VDS going on to.
That's a great line.
Go on to Bosco next year.
Lineup.
Yeah, Bottascuras for Jay Dixon and Philip Salach next year. What a great team as well.
A great team, yeah.
Because you've got the British side of it, which I really like. Obviously, we really like. We've got Jay Dixon. Then we've got the Czech side of it, and we like the Czech Republic as well, don't we? So,
and we'll be there next year.
We will be at Brno next year. We will be also doing an episode at some point about how we're going to get to Brno and what we're going to be doing.
Oh yes,
that sort of thing, and how much it's going to cost and how much it's
where to watch,
where to watch, what we're doing. Yeah. So we're going to do a pre-punters perspective, sort of thing, and then of course we'll do a post-punters perspective as well.
We'll do during videos,
and we'll do we'll go there with it'd be great. So I'm really really looking forward to that next year, especially seeing Philip Salach on a bike, seeing a Czech rider on a bike.
Yes, I mean the atmosphere. Of course,
apart from Carol Abraham from fucking donkeys years ago, but.
I don't remember seeing that many flags of his, but I Salach should have a good fan base there. Good point, actually. Yeah,
I might get a Salach flag. My disappointment was, I think,
what?
I think
if you had one at a team,
if you'd have asked me, earlier on in the year, I would have said Aldeguer. But to be honest, at the end of the year, my biggest disappointment is Garcia, because I don't know what it was about Garcia. It was, what are you looking at, dog?
Dog's obsessed with the Christmas lights.
What are you doing, mate? Weirdo.
No, it's just a candle.
I think that for me, Garcia was 100% my most disappointing rider of the year because of how strong he started, leading the World Championship, and then it was at exactly the same time as him being turned down for the MotoGP move.
It did drop off a bit of a cliff after that, didn't it? And he didn't really do anything
immediately after.
it got into his head, which I think it would for a lot of people.
Still finished fourth in the standings, like.
It kind of happened to Joe Roberts as well, though. Honestly.
Yeah, but he got injured. It's different.
Yeah, but it's the same. Yeah, but again, he didn't get the ride, and that was the separate ride. They were both going for different rides, and no, because obviously Roberts was going to Trackhouse if he got in at all, wasn't he?
Ever since Silverstone, Sergio Garcia.
Stats up here, folks.
Yeah, since Silverstone, where he got P4, he's just off the podium, and then ever since he got the shitty news about his MotoGP move going under,
that's it.
Yeah,
yeah.
He never got into the top 10 apart from 2 times.
Is he your favourite next year for the championship?
Garcia.
Yeah.
Oh.
Especially when you consider Aguirre's moving up.
No, I don't think he is. Because the thing is, I said this last year about Aldeguer. I said, he's my favourite for the championship.
But that was more obvious for everyone, wasn't it?
It was more obvious, yeah. But, I mean, the way that Garcia crumbled after a bit of bad news.
Yeah.
I mean,
it shows you how mentally strong you got to be as well, to be fair. And that means you have to buy another year and do another year in Moto2. So
I mean, what did they actually do? Did they wave the contract in front of his face? Here's your MotoGP contract, and just go, dickhead.
I don't know how close.
But you know what I mean?
We got, do we?
This is what I mean. Is how close did it get? How heartbroken was he? And for God's sake, you split up with you split up with a long-term girlfriend, and it affects you for I don't know 2, 3 months, 4 months, right? And then you get over it. But he didn't seem to get over it at all. I mean, he did get the fastest lap at the Solidarity Grand Prix, the race, when he finished P6. But apart from that, and a P9 at Motegi,
I see where you're going,
at Motegi, ever since Silverstone, he didn't get into the top 10 apart from Motegi and Solidarity Grand Prix. How mental's that? I mean, halfway through the season that he just went.
Yeah, I hope it. Well, look, Sergio Garcia will be MotoGP rider. I think it's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting next year. I mean, the Spanish next year. They're challenging the Moto2 is ridiculous. Their list.
I think Canet's my favourite for the
you've got Canet
championship.
And Gonzalez. You've got Holgado moving up. You've got Alonso's Colombian, technically speaking.
Now Canet's popped his cherry, and he's got a good few races under his race wins under his belt. Yeah, I really think that next year it's going to be Canet.
It's time. I think it could well be, mate.
And I think that he could also have the potential to be my biggest disappointment next year. Yeah. This time next year, if I'm saying that Canet is my biggest disappointment, to be honest, and it sounds really harsh, I won't be surprised. But at the same time, I think he is my favourite to win the World Championship next year.
Yeah,
he's got nothing to lose. The guy is, he's missed out on MotoGP rides before, same as Garcia just has. Maybe those two should be best mates.
Yeah,
I mean, Garcia, I think, didn't make the move up to MotoGP for a more serious reason than Canet.
Speculating. I also don't think Dorna want a good enough, just good MotoGP rider from Spain.
From Spain, yeah.
I think now everyone from Spain 100%. That moves up needs to be a generational talent, an exceptional rider, because you don't need another just good enough Moto2 rider to go to MotoGP Spanish, because you've already got 9 or 10. And I'm not afraid to say that anymore. I mean, there comes a point where what's the point? You might as well have someone who's just as good from another nationality. If the results are equal, there's no point just having someone because they come from, guys, they come from down south, mate. I should have had that ride for Gresini Ducati. That didn't happen either. But or Joe Roberts, that would have been the dream.
Ban him.
Sorry about that accent, folks.
Yeah.
Alex Scholz was pretty, but you only said 2 words, but anyway, enough about Garcia. I think we'll have also a lot of rookies in that class next year that you're gonna give those guys a massive run for the money.
Yeah.
Moto3, to wrap up with Moto3, Alex, who impressed you the most? I don't know why I'm doing this.
Do I really need to say it?
Yes.
To be honest,
they're not
to be honest, before in the days running up to this pod, I've been really trying to find someone that isn't David Alonso that impressed me. Colin Vire impressed me. I think he did a solid effort. Danny Holgado. If we look at Moto3 in 2024 as David Alonso,
No one's going to hate you for saying David Alonso,
and then Moto3. So if we're talking about Moto3 and excluding David Alonso, Danny Holgado did a fantastic job. But could you imagine how close that championship would have been if David Alonso didn't exist? Because
yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Genuinely think about it, because it was really, really, really close between P2, 3, and 4.
Yeah,
bloody hellfire! It was. Let's have a look, shall we?
But then, I mean,
fuck, I've lost.
I know what you're saying.
It's mental how close it was, because
if you take David, but that's, I mean, imagine, I mean, was it three-time world champion Andrea Dovizioso? If it wasn't for Marc Marquez, but that's it. People like Daniel Gargado, it reminds me of Max Biaggi. Oh, fuck's sake, I've got Valentino right now. So Doing's just left. I've got Valentino to deal with now. Brilliant. And some riders just aren't good enough against the generational talent. They're just not. No. And I don't think Holgado. Well, I can see Holgado potentially being a Canet really Moto2 in the coming years.
Well, he has been in Moto3 for a few years, hasn't he?
Yeah,
Danny Holgado.
Yeah, become a bit of a Masia.
Danny Holgado is the Aaron Canet of Moto3, definitely. Yeah. I think that he is an amazing rider. I really, really, really.
No, he's good, and he might find he's better in Moto2. We'll have to see. I
don't think he is. I think he's going to be another Guevara, to be honest.
So you think Alonso will wipe the floor? By the way, we'll sort of mishmash this into one, because you were going to say David Alonso. Let's be honest, because he was the most impressive.
Yes, David Alonso was my most impressive,
and he was obviously mine, because who else?
It cannot be anybody else.
It can't be. Look, statistically, quite clearly, the most impressive lightweight category performance of all time. We know that. And he's got this ability to be able to win races, even if he's P5 or 6 with like a couple of laps left, or even P5 or P6 with 1 lap left. And he's still managed to win the Grand Prix. And he's done that continuously and cleanly.
Yeah.
He does these moves. These moves aren't dirty. These are fair moves. And he does it with a smell like a grin on his face. Like, no, he's just like he's
thinking about what he's going to have for his tea.
He's an unbelievable person.
The thing for me as well with David Alonso is that he was getting pole positions for a laugh at one point.
Yeah.
To a point where he said, right, there's one member of my team that I still need to get a watch for. Right, well, I'll get pole position for this one then. Right, yeah, there we go. Right, got the watch. There's your watch, mate. Nice one. You know what I mean? He was just doing stuff for the sake of it. They said, right, beat Rossi's record. Okay.
He's so much more complete than anyone on the grid.
Then go past Rossi's record. Yeah, well, give me more races, and I will do more.
I don't think he cared about. Well, of course, at the end of the year, you look at I mean, I know riders have said, to be fair, I like going on Wikipedia and looking what I did. I don't think he cared about I just think he likes to race and win. But the record, beating Rossi's record, is a bonus in his eyes, I would say.
It is, yeah. And exactly. And do you know the reason why I'm going to say that David Alonso is my most impressive rider at the Moto3 World Championship in 2024 isn't because of his results, is because of who he is compared to what we see of the other riders. And
he's got a big heart, isn't
he? He's not only... I mean, obviously, we only see the other riders, and all they ever talk about is what we're doing this race, how we did this race, how we've done this weekend. David Alonso gives us more, and he turns around and goes, right, well, I've just won this race, but it's just money.
Yeah,
I've just got a load of money, and I'm going to donate it to
the
relief fund for his win bonus. Donated that to the Valencia Relief Fund, which is incredible. So this isn't someone that is being told to do that by his management. This is someone that is doing it out of the goodness of their own heart. He's 18 years old, for God's sake. Yeah. When I was 18 years old, I was just going out and getting smashed with you, weren't we?
Yes, probably, yeah. Working for next to nothing, working our asses off for next to nothing.
I think the only time
we wouldn't have been able to give away bonuses, even if we wanted to.
The only time I ever gave to charity,
well,
I think, was when.
Well, we probably could, but we'd have nothing left for ourselves. But
that's it.
But that's the thing that he can and he will, no matter what. At that age, I don't think. I mean, maybe in a few years he'll start spending, throwing money a bit around more because he can. And I mean, Fabio Quartararo was obsessed with money at that age. He accepted a Leopard contract.
Still is.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'd have an expensive taste as well, like Aleix Espargaro does. But I remember Quartararo left the Estrella Galizia Honda team in end of 2015 for a money deal. Went chase the money at that age. Like, what are you doing? You're 16. A Leopard, and then Leopard changed to KTM for 2016 for 1 year and didn't win anything. He never won a Moto3 race, did Fabio Quartararo, and then the rest is history. After a few Moto2 wins. So hopefully,
he definitely tries to be a materialistic guy, does Fabio? To be fair,
but then he manages to make everyone like him at the same time. But yeah, my point I'm making is I don't think it matters for Alonso to chase the money because wherever he goes, he'll be paid well anyway.
Do you know what I think it is about Fabio Quartararo? I think it's the Princess Diana face that he's got. The sort of.
The posing. Have you been seeing Alpine Stars adverts or something on Facebook? Because I have.
Oh, mate, it's terrible. No, it's when a session's not gone well for him and he's struggling. He's sat in the box like.
I don't know if I've seen it. He's all the shots I've seen in the pits. He's got his leathers open and he's
always got his tits out. Yeah, Princess Diana didn't do that. But
no, she had a lot more class. Yeah, a lot more class. By the way, I don't know if we've done this the other way around. No, we didn't. In fact, we'll do surprise. Did you have a Moto3 surprise team rider?
I really struggled with the surprise for Moto3.
Yeah,
no one really surprised me.
Okay,
the thing that surprised me was I thought that we'd see a lot more from Taio Furusato this year. And
yes,
he did do well.
A bad surprise, but yeah,
it's a bad surprise.
He's always there. He's always in the front group.
But
I don't think it warranted either of us to pick him as our disappointment, which we'll get to in a second.
No. He definitely doesn't. He didn't disappoint me this year.
Yeah,
Furusato didn't disappoint me. I just expected a bit more from him.
Yeah,
I know that he's on a Honda, and I know that everyone's going to say, "Oh, the Honda's rubbish and the KTM's a lot better." But to be honest, the Honda won the World Championship last year.
Exactly. I mean, then again, the teams,
and I think that Furusato, I feel like Furusato is lacking because of his immaturity. But one thing that I did see this year that's going to contradict that point is when I saw Furusato talking to the cameras.
Yeah.
When he got his podium.
Yeah.
I thought, oh my God. This time last year, when he was interviewed, he looked and sounded like a child.
Yeah.
Now I see him, he looks like a bloke.
Yeah. I saw that interview as well. I know which one you mean.
And he's gone completely from being a kid to being a bloke.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing.
I think he is in the line to be a title challenger next year, definitely. But you were saying the Hondas. Before we move on to the closing stages here, I think the Honda is a good bike. It just needs to be managed well. You've got to have, you've got to have good personnel around it, but you've got to have decent spare parts. This sounds like I'm having a dig at MLAV. Definitely not. But no, you need good management. You need good management. Obviously, Team Asia are a good team. Hiroshi Oyama is a good leader as well. It's a good run team, so that doesn't surprise me that Honda can be ahead of the likes of Scott Ogden. In Scott Ogden, we'll see how well he does next year in a KTM, and it will be better. I'll put 150 quid on Scott Ogden finishing higher in his standings for starters, and maybe not, I won't say doubling his points, maybe, but we'll have to see. But Scott Ogden is going to do a lot better on a KTM.
By the way, we've spoken to a good friend of ours, and we're going to do an episode very, very, very soon about what's going on exactly next year with not just the riders moving around in Moto3, but
the Brits,
especially. Obviously, we've seen recently that Sullivan Mounsey has moved in Junior GP from
Aspar.
To Aspar.
The top
one of the top teams in FIM Junior GP. a Brit, Solomon Mounsey, who hasn't actually got that many great results in Junior GP so far. He's been more in the British Talent Cup. He got good results.
Yeah, last year was P2. I think
P2,
Belford
yeah.
beat him, didn't he? But I think if he does well in Junior GP, an impressive Jorge Martinez Aspar. Would you like to ride in Aspar Motor 3? I mean, that's when this British rider, I mean, it's a massive year for him next year.
So we are going to be talking about that in maybe a week or so's time.
Yeah.
But
yeah, by the way, my surprise.
Your surprise.
My surprise was Luca Lanetta.
This is great. I really, really like this.
The rookie, yes, lucky 2 podiums and P12 in the standings, which doesn't sound incredible, but for a rookie, a normal rookie, I'm not talking about an alien like Pedro Acosta. It's fairly normal and fairly impressive. I mean, Marc Marquez didn't win a 125 race until his 3rd year. Of course, he got podiums, but Lanetta's done brilliantly. And don't forget, his teammate is Filippo Farioli, who finished P19 in the standings behind him.
Philippe Fallotte.
And he's got a year. Yes, he's got a year more experience than Lanetta. So Lanetta, for me, finishing P12. Watch out for him next year because he did exceptionally well, I thought. And I think he could be a dark horse, one of Italy's next greats. Well, one of Italy's next world champions, definitely.
I think that especially him being in 658. Squadron
great little family team to be brought up with.
But it's a fucking cutthroat one to be in as well because you think about it. Paolo Simoncelli. I mean, how many hilarious articles we read of his?
Yeah,
especially when it was Rossi, and I don't mean Valentino. When it was Ricky Rossi, God, the amount it was almost like hate mail. Yeah. It was like it was ridiculous.
I like a manager that sometimes can be like that.
It's fantastic.
He's not soft.
He's not soft at all.
No,
you look at the guy and you can see that he's a tough bastard, but a fantastic bastard, but a tough bastard. And I really, really like his style in that, there's no participation medals here.
No.
You either do well for this team, or you can do one.
Yeah, it's not an Italian charity team.
No, it's not. It's not a charity. It's you're Italian, right? It's coming. It's like Luca Lanetta, Filippo Farioli. Luca Lanetta's done really well, and and Fausto, Paolo's all over him. Great. Yeah. And Philippe has not done as well, and therefore he'll be moving on next year. And we did do a bit of rider market last week.
But
just to remind you that Filippo Farioli will not be with 658 Squadron Corsa next year. He'll be replaced by Stefano Neppa.
Yeah, and obviously, that's another new team for him. Obviously, because he was at Tech 3 Red Bull Tech 3 KTM last year in his first year, Farioli, and then Squadron Corsa, San Carlo this year. Was it San Carlo? 658 Squadron Corsa. It used to be San Carlo a long time ago. Anyway,
I was going to say it's not San Carlo anymore.
Their sponsor a long while ago, but a long time ago. I'm talking 10 years ago. But this appointment for me was going to be Xavi Zaratusza, but then I thought I'm not going to be that harsh because he missed the first 2 rounds and he is 17. But then again,
and he was just crap in general.
He is a Red Bull KTM IO rider and finishing P23 for an IO squad behind Ogden.
Yeah,
is not good enough. But that was going to be it. But then I changed my mind and I went for Tatsuki Suzuki. And that's because he's on arguably one of the most organised, best KTM squads, the Husqvarna Liqui Moly team, teammates with Colin Vire. Colin destroyed him, frankly, this year, in terms of form. And Suzuki ought to know better. He should be faster, is what I should say. Should be more consistent. And his age, he's 26, 27 almost. He's nearly at the age cap. He can do another year, and that's it. I expected a lot more from him because he was actually not bad on the Leopard bike.
I feel like he should have learned from last year, though, because I do feel really sorry for Tatsuki Suzuki because you think about it, last year, towards the end of the year, he got his seat robbed, basically, from him by Adrian Fernandez at Leopard Honda.
Yes, true.
So, So Adrian Fernandez has had some of the best rides in his few years in Moto3 and has kind of squandered them. If you remember, the year before last, Adrian Fernandez was at Tech 3 KTM IO. That's what Tech 3 KTM Rebel KTM IO, and didn't do so well. Got sacked from there, or whatever happened. I don't know actually what happened
internally.
And then he got replaced. And then Tatsuki Suzuki was at Leopard Honda, and then they went, no, not you anymore. Let's have Adrian Fernandez back, which is why I do think that there is some money in the Fernandez family.
For that there is.
Gotta be.
I mean,
anyway, so Suzuki got replaced last year, and then at the end of this year, he's found out basically it's looking highly likely that he's going to lose his seat at Husqvarna, Intact Husqvarna next year, and he'll be losing it to Guido Pini.
Yeah, another great racing name. Brilliant,
Guido Pini.
Look forward to that. To be fair, yeah, I can't wait for next year already.
But it does look like we're losing Suzuki next year, and the only ride left open,
maybe.
Yeah, it's the only ride that's left open on the grid.
I mean, he might be in talks with them. I mean, I've heard a few things, but I think every rider in Junior GP has spoken to MLav. Honestly, and a lot of riders are turning it down. But yes.
Guido Pini being one of them. Alvaro Carpe being another one, I think.
Yeah. But apart from these reviews we've given and bad ones and surprises we've given riders, Alex, what else we speak about in the last dying seconds, minutes?
Well, to be honest, there's been some interesting. I just want to run through. So everyone this year has been sort of talking about crashing and that sort of thing. Okay. I want to do a few crash statistics.
We'll breeze through this because Alex loves a good stat, and I don't want to deprive him of.
I want a Chinese. I'm hungry.
We've left this one a bit late, but
to be honest, it's now. I won't get a Chinese now. It's nearly 10 o'clock. Anyway, so let's breeze through.
Yeah.
But crashing wise, and this is interesting because it really surprised me, to be honest. So let's have a look. So Bagnaia and Digia crashed the least out of all of the Ducati riders, right? So Bagnaia crashed 9 times. And now we're going to go through the top 3 in the MotoGP standings. So Bagnaia crashed 9 times. Martin crashed 15 times.
Yeah.
And Marc Marquez crashed 24 times. And this is, of course, over all the sessions.
Yeah, the whole year. It's not just
the whole year's sessions. So this is free practice. This is practice 1, 2, qualifying 1 and 2 if they're in them, and then the races, obviously. The issue so going back to what I was saying earlier on about how on earth Martin won the championship with those cold hard facts that we gave you earlier on. One of the big things for Bagnaia was that he had 9 crashes, and 8 of those 9 crashes were either in qualifying or races,
which is just not.
Whereas the other riders, so Martin and Marquez, yes, they did crash in races and qualifying, but dominantly they crashed when it didn't really matter. Yeah. Whereas Bagnaia, 8 out of 9 times crashed when it did matter.
And that is literally why he lost the championship with 11 wins to his name. Yeah. Grand Prix wins to his name.
Yeah.
So just remember that stat for. I mean, that's a good stat to know, because you just got to play. I mean, that it's crazy that he had the least crashes, but the worst times to have them. I was there at Catalonia when he did it in the sprint. Really, come on. And then Alage took it, which by the way was a great experience, being on a hill amongst Spaniards. But yeah, it just silly mistakes, and we've spoken about it already. But that one in Sepang was just really daft. Really, really daft. It's easy for us to say we don't ride MotoGP bikes, but yeah, you can't be doing that.
Oh, speak for yourself, mate.
Oh well, of course. Next year, he can't do that either because we don't know how well the Aprilia will be for Martin next year and Bez. So you could see a lot of races between these two, unless the 24 is a lot closer to 25 than it was this year with 23 and 24. We could see Mark winning, Pecco winning, and if Pecco does this again, Mark sometimes crashes when it's in when he shouldn't. But again, as your stats say, predominantly in practice qualifying, which actually can hurt Mark because it can mean he starts 14th.
Yeah.
And if he's done a GP 25, it might not matter. But again, Pecco, there's a good chance he can be world champion next year. I really believe it. But he can't do this again. Mark will beat him by more points. Mark will beat him by more points than Martin will if he does that.
Mark came second in the standings for who crashed the most. The most was Pedro Acosta, as mentioned earlier on, pushing like crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, Pedro Acosta had one less crash than Mark when Mark was on a Honda in 2023.
Yeah.
So it tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
The least amount of crashes was Luca Marini, and 4 crashes over the entire season. It's a bit like with Vinales, isn't it?
A bit of hesitation on that point, but spit it to the moon anyway, so you might maybe...
Yeah. It's like, well, I may as well just hold back a bit. Bit like with Vinales. No, it was Marini. It was Marini, wasn't it? Yeah.
You were just saying that, but
but Marini didn't. He had his first ever Grand Prix crash last year, didn't he?
Yes, out of the whole season. Yeah,
the whole season. So he's not a crasher.
He's not a crasher at all.
Say what you like about it. He did finish the bottom of the standings for the full time riders, but he only crashed 4 times. So in that instance, he's the world champion in not crashing. So at least he can.
I'm sure he doesn't
rest easy during that. Yeah. The most amount of crashes being Pedro Acosta, I just said. Which is pretty amazing. So they are my crash statistics. See if there's anything else in here worth talking about. Obviously, we saw Maverick Vinales win on 3 separate manufacturers. So he got his win at Kota meant that he basically was the first rider in the MotoGP era to win on 3 separate manufacturers. So that's pretty incredible. The last person to do so.
You asked me this question earlier on, didn't you?
Yeah.
And the last person to win with 3 manufacturers in the Premier Class altogether as a Grand Prix Category 5 as well was
Loris Capirossi.
And I don't know why I didn't realize. I should know better. That I've been watching this since I went to watch Doing in '97, but I should know this. But I actually guessed it was Eddie Lawson. I think he was the previous person.
It was a bit unfair, to be honest, because I said to you who did it in the 500 era, but then actually, when you look at Loris Capirossi, his first 2 manufacturers that he won on were in the 500 era, and then in the MotoGP era, when Ducati came about, he then won on the Ducati. Yeah. So technically, the only person in history to have won on 3 different manufacturers across the 2 eras was Loris Capirossi.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the Premier Class, isn't it? So I got it wrong, and that's the end of it. So
anyway, in the modern era, the only person to have done it is Maverick Vinales.
Yeah.
But of course, Eddie Lawson and Loris Capirossi and Mike Halewood were the 3 people to have done it before him as well. There's another one as well. Bold. Randy Manuela.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Randy Manuela did that as well.
So I think that's all this week, folks, isn't it? I mean, we've got some good things lined up. Whether definitely one of them before Christmas, a collab, maybe an interview, but the interview might be in January, or the interview might be next week, and the collab in January. So we'll probably be a week off the Christmas week.
Yep.
Let's face it. But yeah, we've got some exciting things coming up, and we might start changing things like camera angles. One of us might sit there and sit here. We might have one where we're just talking to each other, having the camera there. It's an experimental phase, and we're being more laid back about it until we get into it. And I think it's a bit better than being a bit static.
Oh, I've had a whole bottle. Speaking of relax, I've had an entire bottle of the old Chateau Calypso.
But we had long days today.
Yeah, we both had very long
days. If you want, that's Alex doesn't normally do that for a pod. I can vouch for that.
Yeah.
And but we've also had Tweedy in the background. You probably had some heavy breathing for the dog in the background there. Yeah. So yeah. Thanks for tuning in, folks, and I hope you enjoyed Alex's some of the stats I didn't know until you hear you think, oh wow, okay. So thanks, Al, and
my pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
There might be some comments saying, "Wow, wasn't this person the most surprised?" Like, yeah, if you want to comment, go for it. Yeah,
it's an open forum. We're always an open forum. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, a wonderful rest of the off season. We will speak to you again next week when we. We'll hopefully have a guest on potentially next week.
As I said, it will be a guest next week or one or the other. And it want to be an interview and want to be a collab. So, but yeah, in the coming weeks, definitely.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you ever so much for watching and listening to us again, and we'll see you all again very, very soon. Good night.
Good night, folks.